All right, major breaking news. Over 1,200 protests have broken out across the country at a crucial moment when many Americans are now newly alarmed regarding the woes of the Trump administration. It's fair to say that over the past 2 weeks, after Signalgate, after people being deported with zero due process, now the stock market crashing and zero coherent response from Trump, many Americans are alarmed, are concerned, and uncertain, and these protests are aimed to capitalize on that and also spread the message, hands off. Hands off our Social Security, our Medicaid, hands off the institutions that we've spent decades building up, centuries building up, that have led this country to be great. They say they want to make America great again, yet the Constitution and U.S. aid, all of these small pieces that build America, they are dismantling. So I want to play a quick game before we dig into the meat and bones of this video. Friend of the show, Dave, is in D.C., and he sent me a bunch of photos of his favorite signs. I want you guys to let me know in the comments, after I go through all of these, which sign is your favorite, and then I'll read through some of them later, and it'll be fun. But I wanted to go to DC, but unfortunately some personal stuff popped up. But this first sign reads, "Dear world, we're really sorry. Sincerely, most Americans." Starting off strong. This one is a comparison. Hitler before 1933 and Trump before 2025. Guilty of treason, sentenced to 5 years in prison, and Trump was a convicted felon who was guilty of defamation. Now they become chancellor. Dachau opens, granted dictator powers, boycotts of businesses and professions, excluded undesirables, burned books, sent criminals to concentration camps, and purged political opponents. Now Trump took a chainsaw to the government doge. He's using the executive branch to expand his power, coercing universities, media, lawyers. This is all happening with the universities being suppressed regarding protests, the media being sued relentlessly, now law firms being sued by the administration, excluded undesirables, removes books, sends alleged criminals to other countries. A lot of parallels. This one says they're tariffing the penguins, they're tariffing the polar bears, but not Russia. This one's for all the women out there. Hashtag yes, all women, don't tread on me. What about this one? Hands off all government agencies. I have a dream. Make America great again. And the dream is Trump being taken away. Stop the corruption in the Trump administration now. Next, we have some from Chicago. MAGA, morons are governing America. That's a pretty solid one. What about this next one? It says April 4th, 2025, yesterday. No one to blame but Trump. And it's a photo of, I'm assuming, the S&P 500, the Dow Jones, the NASDAQ, all just tanking solely due to Trump and his unpredictable trade policies. This one says resist. And it's a piece of shit with Trump's hair on top of it. I kind of like that one. I'll let you know what my favorite one is after that. This says bans off our bodies. This one says live, laugh, liberate, fight fascism. I like that one a lot. Hey, cowardly House Republicans, see you in 2026. That is very, very true. The midterm prospects for the Republicans are currently being single-handedly nuked by Trump. And you know, a lot of people were worried that we won't even have midterms or won't even have any more elections. But number one, we've seen a lot of people get creative and use their voice in democracy. So I am genuinely convinced we will have elections. First of all, Trump withdrew Elise Stefanik as a nomination because he knew that election was going to be close. He knew that seat was going to be close, so he withdrew her nomination, and it was close. That means he knows that he'll be held accountable. But also, regarding people getting creative with democracy, we've seen people sticking up at town halls. We've seen people making sure that their elected representatives are held accountable and understand their concerns. We see elected representatives fleeing town halls. We see protests, people calling their representatives, people applying pressure in a bunch of ways on social media and in real life, and these protests are another example. So I think the administration is beginning to see it. And, you know, I didn't finish reading the signs. This one says, I thought Trump would fix the economy, I'm assuming it says, and there's a down arrow right there. I would say my favorite one is very likely, Dear World, we're really sorry, sincerely Americans, or maybe the one that points out that we're tariffing penguins and polar bears, but not tariffing Russia. But there's a key point to this protest that I want to make sure to highlight. Beyond the hands-off aspect, it's that these protests are trying to reach the newly alarmed, The rallies on Saturday are being held all over the country and emphasize cuts to healthcare, Social Security, and education, and they come at a very key time when a lot of people across the country are just beginning to, let's say, wake up to the Trump administration. Now let's see. Let's go through some cities and let's check these out. Right here, we have protests forming in Boston. Some energetic protests there. Lancaster, Pennsylvania, a lot of people. In Penn Square. This is London, England. Hands-off protests in London, England. Washington Park, Cincinnati. Boom. Downtown Los Angeles. We've got a lot of movement in downtown Los Angeles. Philly. Here are protests in Philly. Portland, Maine. Boom, 2,500 in attendance. Let's listen. The country is incredibly energized. I was going to go live stream in D.C. We almost went out to D.C. to live stream, but something did pop up. I do apologize for that. I do have FOMO. I have a lot of fear of missing out right now. Columbus, Ohio. Let me know. Did you guys go to the protests? Let me know your experiences. I want to post some of these on my community posts. Did you meet any cool people? Learn any stories? Let me read this article really quickly, but first, let's watch friend of the show Aaron Parnas in attendance at this exact rally.
I am here right now at the massive anti-Trump, anti-Musk protest happening right behind me. We're at the National Monument. Look at this. Let me show you the scenes right now.
Their right to participate in startups because we have the people power. We have the power that nonviolent people generally bring, and we know that will succeed in time.
Folks, it's only about 11:15. There are several thousand people here. They're expecting a lot more, and they're covering most of the National Monument, the Washington Monument, on National Mall. People go far, far back over there. Now, allegedly, we're expecting a number of speakers from Congressman Jamie Raskin, Congressman Maxwell Frost, and many more, so I'll see what I can cover. But right now, it's just several thousand people across the DMV area protesting Elon Musk and Donald Trump. Let me know if you want to see something specific. I'm happy to interview anyone. I'm happy to talk to anyone. So we'll see what happens. But I'm out here. If you're out here, let me know.
Absolutely amazing work there. You know, I just got another sign incoming. This lady has multiple signs. It says, "My job was taken by an immigrant," and that's Elon Musk. Shout out to this woman right here. Hegseth Waltz Vance Ratcliffe Barrett. How are your merit-based anti-DEI picks doing now? Very, very true. Let's go back to this article, then we'll check out some clips of people speaking. Opponents of President Trump are planning protests on Saturday in all 50 states to oppose the president's slash-and-burn attacks on federal healthcare programs and government workers, a message that they say appeals to a politically diverse set of Americans, and I agree. Especially, I mean, this part wasn't planned, but especially right off the back of Trump's Liberation Day, which crashed the market, one can reasonably come to the conclusion that people are even more aware today than they would have been otherwise. People are paying extra attention. So there's extra attention to capitalize on. The mass action, Hands Off, was organized by Indivisible, Move On, and several other groups that led protests about abortion rights, gun violence, and racial justice during the first Trump admin. But organizers say they are now working with 150 local, state, and national partners to emphasize a new message. President Trump is threatening healthcare, Social Security, and education, making life easier for the rich and harder for the average American. And here's the thing. The coalition is taking a little bit of a different approach. So Saturday's protests will surely include signs and speeches about reproductive rights, trans rights, and racial justice, as they should. But the framing for the Saturday march is largely, quote, "Let's talk about Trump's economic attacks and attacks on our rights," said Leah Greenberg. Now, they are not different things. They come from an anti-democratic alliance taking over and attacking fundamental parts of our democracy, and now they're trying to appeal to the most diverse coalition possible. Let's check out this clip of Representative Jamie Raskin speaking in D.C. just moments ago.
The problem is he was appointed to the bench first by President Bush. He was Justice Kavanaugh's roommate. roommate at Yale. He's known as a pillar of the legal establishment. They say, though, well, the number of courts striking down Trump's policies is completely unprecedented. Well, so what?
So what? What Trump is doing is completely unprecedented. That was Jamie Raskin of Maryland saying they're calling Judge Boasberg a radical leftist judge, but he was appointed by Bush. That shows how far the Republican Party has fallen, that Bush-appointed judges are now seen as radical leftists.
They're the ones that are screwing us over on the jobs. They tell us that trans people are a threat to our children, but they're the ones dismantling public education. They're the ones denying the climate crisis. They're the ones poisoning our planet. They're the ones doing nothing about the national public health emergency.
Very well said from Representative Maxwell Frost there, friend of the show, but we'll see. These protests are an amazing step in an already great Democratic coalition that's been forming. I have to say, I was disillusioned with the Democratic Party in the months after the election. I still am, but I do think that a Democratic Party that is more powerful is slowly emerging. We're really figuring out who the leaders are and who the leaders aren't. I mean, AOC has stepped up, and it feels like Chuck Schumer, in a way, has stepped down, right? So we're seeing a lot of people rise to the occasion. We're seeing a lot of people not. We're weeding out the bad leaders, and we're holding mass protests and rebuilding the coalition that kind of fractured on November 5th. And I'll leave it at that. I love all of you. Thank you for being here. We will fight. Our democracy will be okay. America is resilient because it's made up of a bunch of people like us who still have the ability to voice our opinions and vote. So we'll leave it there. Drop a like, subscribe. Love you all. See you in the next video. Peace out.